design its MBA program and try to pitch it at a really ambitious level and making it a reference in the world at some point. So our objective with this is to make sure that whoever chooses to do this MBA here with us really will get a very complete education in management, in all areas of management, in the core areas. I'm going to leave you now with Paulo Soares Carvalho. So thank you, Paulo, and welcome everyone.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this to our second webinar, ISEG MBA webinar. We are going to start this webinar by making a very short presentation of our MBA. We have the presentation of one of our global partners. It's the World Economic Forum, and we have with us Olivier Woeffray. So I'm going to introduce him in a couple of minutes. But I would like to start this webinar by giving all of you a very short introduction about what exactly is the ISEG MBA. Probably you know that this is an executive MBA, so the ISEG MBA, it's a 18 months MBA, executive MBA. It's probably the oldest MBA in Portugal, from one of the most credible faculties, ISEG, the Faculty of Economics and Management of Lisbon, that belongs to the biggest university in Portugal, which is the University of Lisbon. Around 50,000 students in Portugal, in Lisbon. And I'm going to share my screen just to give you an overview of the program. My idea here is to very briefly give you an overview. So if you can see here that we are doing a webinar series. This is the second one. Last week we started with Rita Almão. Rita made a presentation of one of the most important parts and modules or areas of our MBA, which is the leadership and personal development, that links also with our career hub. It's one of the most important areas in any MBA, beyond, of course, the core courses or the fundamentals that are the bulk of also our ISEG MBA. Today we have Olivier Woeffray from the World Economic Forum. I'm going to talk about this partnership that we have with the World Economic Forum briefly in a few minutes, and then I'm going to pass the word to Olivier. Next week we will have Miguel Fontes. Miguel is the Executive Director of Startup Lisboa, and Startup Lisboa is another global partner that we have. On the 26th of May, Arlindo Oliveira, the former president of Técnico Lisboa and full professor of Técnico, he will talk about technology disruption, digital transformation, and how Técnico it's one of the most important partners that we have in this field of technology evolution and disruption. Then we will have Rui Quinta and Tiago Nunes talk about design thinking. They belong to a consultant company based in Lisbon that works on design thinking, strategic design with company. And the sixth webinar is from the Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies, another global partner that we have. And they are going to talk about foresight, megatrends, scenarios, and how these can be used to design new kind of strategies and lead and deal with strategic risks. So ISEG MBA in a nutshell. So we have a core courses. It's the bulk of the program. So the functional areas, finance, marketing, strategy, operations, people and organizations, and then a couple of other fundamental areas that are the most important ones in any MBA, and of course in this ISEG MBA. And this is where the core research areas and fields of ISEG are based. So this is really important for us. The second part of the ISEG MBA is the leadership and personal development. We have two layers. One is the leadership journey, and another one is the personal development plan that starts with the individual assessment. Rita Almão last week explained very detailed what exactly is going to happen in this area. The third part of the MBA, or the third layer, is the importance of applied learning, from designing or testing or making business plans to different kind of business simulations in marketing and other areas. And of course, the capstone project, that is the end of the program. We have three immersive experiences. One in Silicon Valley with a partnership with the University of San Francisco. It happens in the end of the program, almost in the end of the program. And then we have a mirror experience not in Silicon Valley, but in Lisbon with Startup Lisboa. And Startup Lisboa is going to offer all the participants in the program an immersive experience in our entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem. And the third experience is with the Air Force Academy. It will be one weekend and with the Air Force Academy, so that you can test your limits, to be honest. And it happens in the beginning of the program, and this is a perfect way to form a group spirit in the cohort of the program. But the most important, or at least the major changes that we have made in the redesign of the ISEG MBA, it's in what we call strategic streams. And we have 5 strategic streams. The first one is on global futures. Another one is on digital technology, digital disruption. The third one on entrepreneurship and innovation. The fourth one on design and agility. And the fifth one on sustainability and governance. I'm not going to explain and present these 5 streams, just to give you an overview that, or an information that in each one of these streams, strategic streams, we have what we call global partners. And on global futures, we have the World Economic Forum that we are going to present and talk today in this webinar, and the Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies. And in the other streams, we have different kind of partners doing different kind of activities or inputs that make these MBA really distinctive. So we are not going to present the streams today, of course, but we are going to focus in one of these streams. This is what we call global futures. And in particular, we are going to talk about what a global organization like the World Economic Forum that somehow foster strategic thinking and have this kind of, it's not just Davos. People usually know the World Economic Forum from Davos, but it's much more than that. And how we can integrate the World Economic Forum, and in particular some of the projects and platforms that they have, into our program. And we are going to give access to the participant students of our MBA to a strategic intelligence platform that Olivier is going to explain exactly what it is. All of the participants will have a premium access to this platform. And we are going to have master classes in very specific topics and deep dives, and also some specific contents, briefings, and other kind of documents that all the participants will have access in firsthand. So without more delays, I'm going to present briefly Olivier Woeffray. Olivier works in a very specific area of the World Economic Forum, his Strategic Intelligence Unit. He's a practice lead in this field. We have already worked together for the last 2 years, because the World Economic Forum is a partner of the ISEG MBA, and ISEG, of our faculty. And we have a couple of projects in some of our executive programs in which we had the opportunity to work together. So it's really a pleasure to have you here, Olivier. I think it's a very important partnership that we have with the World Economic Forum, but in particular, with your the strategic unit of the World Economic Forum. So thank you so much. I'm going to ask you to share your screen, or at least to present yourself much better than I can. So once more, thank you so much, and just explain what kind of a partnership, what kind of benefits the students of our MBA can have from this partnership with the World Economic Forum. Olivier.
Great. Thank you very much, Paulo. I want to say a lot about myself. I don't think that's the most interesting part here, but I want to take this few minutes to walk you through what we're doing and what we hope we can also bring through that collaboration with the MBA. Paulo mentioned a few areas. I think one is the strategic intelligence platform, and I will mostly focus the time here on that because I think that's probably the part that is less known about the forum. And then also he mentioned. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And then some briefings and some master classes, bringing in some of the expertise also that the forum has in some of those areas. So just as a starting point, I have a few slides and I'll show you then also what this is. But very briefly, Paulo mentioned the forum is not just this. That's what most people have in mind when I say I work at the forum. Thankfully, I don't work in the mountain in the cold, but that's actually quite an important place for us. As you know, it's where the forum story and organization in a way started. World Economic Forum in Davos. That's one of our major events, but we do actually much more than just meeting once a year up the mountains. I have here, just so you get a sense of what we do, it's important context actually is we are an international organization and we focus everything we do on the concept of public-private cooperation. The things very core of our DNA is actually the multi-stakeholder concept. So we always bring private sector, public sector, academia, civil society around the table when we're tackling some of the big global issues. We are global, so we don't look specifically at a region, but we are actually present and are doing work everywhere in the world. And we are independent. We are not dependent on any specific state like other organizations. So that gives us a quite interesting space in which we work, especially when we think about becoming a trusted, neutral platform in a way for some of those conversations to happen. And basically what we're trying to do is bring all of those people together to help shape the future of these different issues we work with and we work on. We started being basically a sort of business organization, but very early on, everyone realized that in order to have impact there, we couldn't just work with the business. We had to bring in decision makers from the public sector, bring the best expertise from academia, civil society and experts. And then as we grew, we also started adding the younger generation of leaders on our platform, some of the emerging technology pioneers, startups, etc., social entrepreneurs. So just to give you a sense of the type of people and networks we work with at the forum. We've done events, you know that probably very well. We also create communities around the topics and areas that we work on. One of the way we have to actually have impact there is to organize around projects. And more recently, we also developed quite a lot, what we call the knowledge here. So, and this is really where the work I'm going to present to you now, I think, is embedded. So all of those activities actually can only take place if we base them on the latest research analysis and bring in the best expertise, which is something we added in a more recent phase of development of the organization. I mentioned this project and different areas of focus here. We are structured around 20 main platforms that we call here, just to give you a sense also that it's very diverse in terms of the topics that we cover, from digital economy and new value creation, the future of energy and materials, mobility, advanced manufacturing and production, a lot of conversation around different type of emerging technologies and what are the right policies and governance of those, from blockchain to AI, and more recently also the COVID action platform. So this is just to say, you know, we work with very diverse networks and also cover a lot of different issues. The context for this, I think I wanted to start with a short quote from someone you might know, John Hagel, who was trying to understand how change takes place in the economy. And basically what he observes is that there is a pattern usually the edge transforms the core. So change, transformation most often comes from external pressure and forces people and organization to change. And that's something that is quite important for what we have developed here, and we'll hope can also bring in the course at the MBA at ISEG. An example to illustrate this is I was just looking at something that most of us also know. The Economist every year puts out a special edition on the world in 2020, for instance. So last year, seeing the world in 2020, and you could see here that actually some of the big topics that were going to be tackled, in November 2019, looking at the year ahead, was Brexit, the American election, the Olympics in Tokyo, the World Expo in Dubai, technological excitements from flying cars, etc. Basically just at the time, actually already in some areas of the world, and very soon after that everywhere, this is basically what happens. And you can see that that's not something that was clearly part of the year 2020 when we were looking at it just a couple of months ago. The point I'm trying to make here is just an example of what Hegel is saying, is that drastic change comes very often from outside and from the edge. For most of us, we're not epidemiologists, we're not looking at these things on a daily basis. We look at maybe some consumer trends, geopolitics, some of the economics indicators, and so on and so forth. And suddenly something very small happens that have a very big impact. And we've seen in the last couple of months and weeks that this can actually turn the world upside down. I'm not here trying to, I will not get into, saying the economists got it wrong. We all got it wrong and no one expected this to happen now, right? But the point I'm trying to make here is that if we look at different perspectives and we start looking at people that are in that field, and things like coronavirus was at the core of what they were doing and not at the edge, they've actually been talking about that for a long time. So basically the point that I'm making here is that the whole question of perspectives, and when we start flipping between core and edge, it's important to have a multiplicity of perspectives to make sure we have a full overview of what could happen around us. Because as we saw, something that could appear at the edge of what I do can actually come and disrupt me quite heavily. And I think that's the whole point, is that because of what I mentioned before, you can understand that the World Economic Forum, the way it is set up, the networks and the different individuals we work with actually bring us these perspectives. And I think that's really when the magic happens, in a way, is when we are able to bring all of those perspectives together, because this allows us to really have a very good 360 view on what might be happening without trying to get too much into the game of predicting things like COVID-19. An example here, when we talk about the perspectives, we have our global risk report published every year. And here I'm just looking at the answers for this year, when we asked actually the global business community, so CEOs and top leadership from major companies in the world, to rank the top risks for business coming for the year 2020. So you see here a lot of the blue, which are economic related, failure of governance from geopolitics, other conflicts, data frauds, etc. Of course, here as well, even with the diversity of business leaders we have, we would have missed in the conversation things like a global pandemic. The wealth of individuals we bring on every piece of work we do allow us to, again, avoid some of those blind spots here. Here, if we take exactly the same exercise, the same year, but we build not just of what the global leaders, actually business leaders had in mind, but what the multi-stakeholder community of the forum has in mind, including the experts, including government people, civil society, academia, etc. What we see is actually the question of infectious disease comes into the picture. So again, this was not to say that it was already seen as top risk and everyone was talking about it, but just to make a point that that diversity actually brings interesting elements on the radar of everything we do. Three or four interesting pieces of information here. When we look at the global risk reports from 2007 up to the year 2020, can see that already there, this question of pandemics was actually coming up in the top 5 risks, at least in 2007, 8. Then we have this falling outside of the top 5. 2015, infectious disease comes back. So again, here another example of how this was around. We had a group of experts, we call them Global Agenda Councils, on pandemics, who were working on this already from a few years ago, talking about the fact that a big one would come and that we should learn lessons from smaller outbreaks we've seen from H1N1 to Ebola, so on and so forth. The last one, this was not just talks and reports and knowledge produced, but actually in 27, as a result of some of this work, we launched in Davos in our annual meeting CEPI, which is an organization that was founded with the government of India, of Norway, the Wellcome Trust, the Gates Foundation, and the Forum, with this idea to stimulate and accelerate the development of vaccine and also to enable access when needed. Another element here about that. And finally, I think in terms of the readiness in 2019, a lot of conversation around this big white paper about readiness of business for potential outbreaks. And something quite interesting that happened actually in October 2019, that was a live simulation exercise that was set up by the Forum with the Gates Foundation again, and some other partners in New York, putting a handful of global leaders from private sector, public sector, to actually simulate a situation of a global pandemic. And this was just before actually the outbreak. But when we look at it now, it was actually very, very similar to what is happening now. So here, just to say, this diversity of perspectives brings, I think, is our strength. It's not so much because we are an amazing organization, but I think it's because we have this availability to work with amazing people that are actually at the edge and cutting edge in all of the different issues that we tackle. The approach we have, so what we've done is, this is just an example around COVID-19, but we are, as I was saying, we have 20 major areas we are looking at the World Economic Forum, from environmental related issues to social issues, industry issues, global issues, so on and so forth. And what we've done is try to develop in the last couple of years a digital platform where all of that knowledge and insights could be aggregated and made available to anyone. So basically what we're doing here is, and this is strategic intelligence, what we're doing is that we build on all the knowledge and insights that are generated through the work we do with our wide networks. And then we amplify this also with machine intelligence to allow us to scan through major sources and plug into the system the latest research and analysis. All of this organized through a dynamic visual framework that we call transformation maps, that basically does two very simple things. And to refer to the quote from John Hagel is, take here any issue we are tackling, whether it's a specific industry, climate change, or a specific region and country. What we do is that this framework forces us and our experts to put in the center and to prioritize really what is at the core of these issues. So if I'm looking at one of those issues very quickly, I should have a 360 understanding of what is at stake there for that very issue. And then, of course, as we said, it's very important to also keep on the radar what is happening at the edge, what are some of the contextual developments that might affect these issues. And here, that's also what we are doing by connecting those issues at the core with some potential edge factors that might relate to it and potentially reshape it in the future. All of this with the idea to support understanding of our users of global issues, but also support decision making. I will skip through this quite quickly, but behind this, at the core, we have a network of experts, 5,000 experts from different sectors of the society, again, with global coverage. We have partnerships with leading universities and international organizations that help us curate all of that content. And then we work with about 250 different sources from which we scan 1,000 articles on a daily basis. All of this is available in the platform. I'll show you now in just a second. So this is just taking a few seconds to load. Okay, so this is the strategic intelligence platform that Paolo mentioned will be available to all students. I think the core feature here I'll show you is the ability to discover some of those issues. So if we take the example, sorry, we're covering, I mentioned before, a different type of issues. So we have about 150 countries and regions that are covered, global issues from emerging technologies such as AI, 5G, 3D printing, air pollution, things more related to sustainability, air pollution, biodiversity, climate change, and also societal issues, for instance, civic participation, cities, so on and so forth. I'll take the example that we all are thinking about these days of the COVID-19 again. And basically what you see here is that very quickly you can get an understanding of what is at the core of this question of COVID-19. So if I'm trying to understand COVID-19, one of the key area probably is to look at the government response and how this is diverging in different countries, different regions, from measures that are put in place to tackle the immediate health crisis to measures that are put in place for some of the short to long-term social and economic implications of the outbreak. Could also, another very key issue is how do we avoid infection and spread, the question around finding a vaccine, some of the implication of trade, on trade, travel, financial market, for instance. Also the role of media here. We've seen the importance of information, the disaster caused by misinformation, and finally something relevant, I think, across organization again and across countries is the question of impact on the workforce. So for all of those, you get a very dense executive summary that describes what is happening in terms of the workforce impact from COVID-19. And then you have the possibility to basically dive deeper into this, getting some of this information, the latest research and analysis I was mentioning before, whether this is reports, blogs from some of the partners we're working with, video content, some data sets here, also what are some of the events in the session, initiatives that the forum has and projects we have on the topic, and also who are the key experts and stakeholders around that question. As I mentioned before, we're not looking at those topics in isolation. We have exactly the same approach for the 250 areas that we cover, exactly similar to what you see here for COVID. Prioritize what is at the core, but then it's very important to link with wider development happening maybe at the edge in the broader context. If I'm trying to understand the impact of COVID-19 on the workforce, I will get a good understanding, a short briefing here from that dimension of the COVID-19 map, but I might also be interested in understanding better what are some of the broader trends and development around corporate governance. So if I'm looking at how the workforce is impacted in an organization, I also probably need to look at how different organizations might be tackling, for instance, that disruption, how they are managing risks, or what are the different mechanisms they have in place to adapt and to govern or to navigate a situation like this one. Again, here, similar format, research and analysis on all of those dimensions can be accessed here directly. I also might say, if I try to understand workforce impact from COVID, I actually need to also understand some of the broader developments in the area of workforce and employment, not directly related to COVID-19. For instance, the new work models is something that is quite relevant if I'm trying to understand the impact of COVID-19 on the workforce. Because today, actually, even before COVID-19 arrived, we see that most newly created jobs actually are temporary, they are part-time, they are independent, and actually we don't have good official data to understand them. And that's actually quite important. We see it today workers in this situation are very differently impacted than a full-time employee with a contract with an organization, and also some of the social protection that is attached to it, you could say. So just to make the point that for each of those issues, you might get much more context and understanding to going zooming out and going into the edge of the issues you're interested in, to understand some of the broader developments and how those might relate to it. A last things I wanted to show, which is also something that is not available to anyone, but would be to the students, is the ability to create your own map. And here I have done a little bit of preparatory work so that I don't take too much time here. The point is, you can start with a blank canvas here, and you could say, I will bring in really just the areas that are really core to what I'm trying to understand or what I am working on now. And those could be at the intersection of some of those 250 issues. So here I've put an image, the title, and brought the question of impact of COVID-19 on workforce. But we've seen actually that from workforce and employment, I think we explored the question of new work models and social protection being relevant here. And we also went into the corporate governance area. Let's say the question of risk management, the question of how do we manage the long-term vision, short-term needs, and governing disruption, let's say. So just for the sake of the example, but I could actually customize my lens and bring in really what is most relevant to me. And this brings all of the connections and all of the related content with it, becomes then fully embedded into the platform and becomes in a way a monitoring framework for what I am specifically interested in, trying to understand how those relate to wider developments, and also always get the granularity here coming from the latest research and analysis on a daily basis. So this is, I think, what I wanted to just as in a nutshell is some of the capabilities and the concept around what we're trying to do. And this is something, as mentioned, that you will have access to. I'll just go back now just for a second here on my slides. I think I'm almost done and we can have some questions. In terms of the access, actually by the premium access, we call it digital membership. So you will get access to some of the advanced features I've just presented to you. We also are very interested in actually getting feedback and having our users share their expertise on those issues, because most of you will be actually involved in a way and working on those issues as well. So you have also knowledge to share with us through the platform directly. And we organize also on the top of this regular webinar briefings a few a month, where we bring some of the top experts we have on some of the issues we cover for 30, 45 minutes, where our digital members join and also have the possibility to exchange some question with the experts. So I think in a nutshell, for me today was important to have you get maybe a better understanding of what the organization is and what we do, really putting the emphasis on this diversity of perspectives that we have the opportunity to work with at the World Economic Forum, and how we try to bring all of those actually in a digital platform, easily accessible, to help anyone get an understanding of some of those global forces and how they are playing out, and also an easy way to monitor how those evolve over time. So I'll just wrap up here and let Pablo jump in. I don't know if you have any reactions. Yeah.
Let me just, not only a couple of questions, but also I would like to talk with you about how can we, sorry, let me see if I can just, okay, so let me just ask you a couple, not questions, but also to reflect with you what kind of benefits that the students of this ISEG MBA will have access through this partnership. So the first thing, which is very outstanding, and it's a remarkable work that you have been done for the past years throughout this strategic intelligence platform, this transformations map platform. So all the participants with the premium access will have access to content. So all those driving forces organized in a very systemic way. So one of the most important things of the platform is first of all, it's content and it's knowledge and data that's curated, first of all, right? So, and you work with the best universities, faculties, think tanks in the world. So it gives a very sound and credible information and knowledge that we can have in the platform. And to have this kind of systemic thinking that usually it's something that we are not so used to. Future thinking, it's important, as we really know, and that it's something that we want and we are going to bring into the MBA. Systemic thinking and exponential thinking. So how can we keep up with this kind of changes? And this is something that all the participants and students who have access. The second thing is, and also reports and briefings and very special content that the forum is always producing and the partners are always producing. There is something that you didn't talk too much, is this network of experts. And this network of experts, there are experts from outside of the forum, but you have always, and also your own experts that are based in different parts of the world. And what we really want to bring into the program, to the MBA, is the capability of exploring a couple of driving forces or topics that we believe that will be important for the students, and have throughout the program some master classes or deep dives with your team that are in Beijing or in the San Francisco or in Zurich. Can you just explain a little bit what you can do with us throughout the program with these masterclass or deep dives?
Yes, so I think you will have understood that there's a lot of work, real work, projects work, meetings, groups, working groups, etc., that is happening in the context of what we do at the World Economic Forum. And what I've showed you now, this platform is actually the surface where we bring everything together and organize it in a systemic way. So I think what Paolo is referring to is this, what we agreed also in the framework of that partnership with ISEG for the MBA is that depending on the areas of interest for the course, for the students, is we can always go back to this network that is behind it. And so if you just take an example of the COVID-19, or if we take AI or blockchain, we have project teams actually that work at the World Economic Forum that engage all of those stakeholders from outside the forum, but these teams actually have an amazing overview and they're fully embedded on those themes, on what's happening, out there in the world around this, and they're doing projects, events, they're writing reports also with all of our partners on those things. And what we thought is, depending on your areas of interest, we will offer the opportunity in that context of the partnership to bring some of those colleagues, let's say my colleague who's now leading the COVID-19 action platform, and he's on call with top leaders in the world almost on a daily basis to discuss what can be done to tackle this, whether it's from the health crisis to the long-term economic implications of that. He could come and for instance, give an overview of the topic from his perspective and building on all of the conversation and work he's doing. Same for, we have a center for the fourth industrial revolution in San Francisco, for instance. There we have a lot of specialized teams actually that have spent their careers working on AI, blockchain, etc. Also are doing a lot of work there with external stakeholders of the forum, and that could come and say, I'm interested in understanding, figuring out blockchain. They could come and share that knowledge also through a masterclass. So that's kind of the concept we had established with ISEG.
Yes, and there is something that's really impressive, and you mentioned and you showed very briefly, which is not only the students and participants will have access to the map, to the transformations map. They change according to the topic, to the focus that you put in the center of the map. But also they will have the possibility of building their own maps, and this is something that is more exclusive for premium subscribers of the platform, and this is really outstanding. But one of the things that I believe will make a difference for the students will be the capability of using the platform and using this kind of personalized maps to integrate and use that as input for specific projects throughout the program, but also for projects that they can have in their own company. So designing a strategic planning or building a strategic roadmap or building scenarios. We build scenarios using the platform in the executive program, Future Strategic Design and Innovation, in which the World Economic Forum is also a partner. So this is something that they will need also to learn the potential and the capability of the platform, right?
Yes, that's a great point. Thank you for that. And I think as everything you will learn through the MBAs, the idea is that you bring it back in your current or future organization, teams, etc. And this is, as Paolo mentioned, for that specific piece, something very easy to do. We'll share more information about how others have done that. I think what's important to remember is that it's a data of insights and knowledge. I think then, depending on the need, we add a different lens on it. Some have used that for a risk mapping, opportunity mapping. Some has done, others, and Paolo and I have been working on that, have been using this as a major source of input and insights for scenarios planning process, foresight. Others have been using this more to communicate and engage people in their organization around strategic priorities. We have a lot of use cases there. And I think what's interesting with the feature I showed that Paolo is referring to, of the ability to customize that, is I think what we've observed is with that, we move a bit more into an area where it's not just a database for individual consumption, but it becomes in a certain way an enabler or a support for conversation in groups, in teams, prioritization, alignment, speaking a similar language, on having a similar connections in mind as a group. So I think this was quite, to me, the most interesting is when we start bringing this in teams and organizations and use this as a way to facilitate some of those difficult conversation about the future, because these are complex and interconnected topics, etc. And this kind of help clarify and simplify it in a quite, I would say, a playful way, building on that that amazing knowledge that is brought to us by all the people I mentioned we work with.
Okay, so a couple of questions that I have here. So I believe that the platform, it's not just a content platform, it's not a database of driving forces, it's also a network of people. So the people that have access to the platform, and in particular with the premium access, they will have the opportunity to interact with other people. Is this something possible? And they can also somehow not only receive content, they can also somehow contribute to the platform. Is this something that is possible?
Good. I thought I lost you. Yes, so the contribution to the platform is possible. I mentioned before, we are very much interested to hear from our users. I mentioned, so I didn't mention, we have now, I think, around 350,000 users. When we look at the data, most of them actually are in positions of our decision makers, experts, etc., in organizations that are reputable and are very legitimate, and they are doing great work, and they have built themselves knowledge on those things. So of course we treat our experts in a specific way, but we increasingly build also on that experience that is shared by any user to feed this conversation with the experts.
It's like a very exclusive social network.
Not for, I mean, at that level of access, it's the possibility to shape it and the possibility to be kind of connected with those experts, but through webinars.
Okay.
It's
but
not
with the other people that are part of the network, you can somehow communicate and share some messages or data.
Not yet.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So. Okay, so thank you so much. The time is over, so we need to close our webinar. It was a pleasure as always, Olivier. Thank you so much for your presentation. I think that we have a great partnership. It's not just a partnership with the access to the platform or to briefings, or to reports, or to webinars. I think this is a very special partnership that we have with the World Economic Forum for the ISEG MBA, because it's something that it goes throughout the entire program. And it will be also our responsibility not only to bring the best and to take the best of the platform, but also to use the platform throughout the entire program and in different kind of areas and topics of the ISEG MBA. So, Olivier, thank you so much. See you in, I believe, in October. I think you are coming hopefully in July. Let's see if that will be possible. I
had the chance to be in Lisbon just before everything went south, so I don't know when will be next time.
Yes. But yeah. Okay, it was great. It's always great to have you, even in a digital distant way. Okay, thank you so much, and see you soon. And keep safe. Okay.
Bye. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening. Bye. Thanks.
Program and try to pitch it at a really ambitious level and making it a reference in the world at some point. So our objective with this is to make sure that whoever chooses to do this MBA here with us in Lisbon really will get a very complete education in management in all areas of management, in the core areas. I'm going to leave you now with Paulo Soares de Carvalho. So thank you, Paulo, and welcome everyone.
37th edition. It has a long history. What we tried to do was, how can we put this program with this kind of history, credibility, into the future? The new ISEG MBA program has this kind of a configuration: leadership and personal development, applied learning, immersive experiences, and 5 major streams. I'm going to ask Rita now to come to the stage.
Our MBAs will have 6 core modules or 6 core courses that will help them navigate to the major forces that we call in leadership.
I invite to the stage 4 people from 4 organizations that are some of our partners and professors, and I believe will have a huge impact in the program in some, or at least in 4 of our strategic streams.
And the difference of this MBA is, I think, will be the core team of the program, the teachers, the partnerships, the people that you will interact. That will be the main difference.
I invite you to be part of this journey beyond the future, your future. So welcome to the ISEG MBA.